For 2,000 years, we've been told the same story about Roman gladiators. We've heard they were tough, oiled-up fighting machines who spent their days fighting each other with swords and their nights with women who loved these ancient bad boys. Hollywood gave us Russell Crowe frowning bravely while thinking only of his dead wife. They showed us Spartacus breaking chains and winning hearts, but only female hearts. We've seen countless documentaries with historians who somehow missed half the writing on the walls because they were too busy measuring swords. Every gladiator movie shows the same thing: muscled warriors who would rather die than show feelings. Unless those feelings were about revenge or a beautiful slave girl who needed saving. They were the perfect example of what men should be: violent, serious, and about as emotionally complicated as a hammer. They were completely, magnificently, hilariously wrong. Tonight, you are Celadus the Thracian, and it's a hot, sticky September evening in 78 CE. This is 1 year before the volcano Vesuvius will turn your entire world into history's most dramatic time capsule. You're 26 years old. You've won 12 fights in the arena, and you're about to return to your cell in Pompeii's gladiator-barracks. There, you'll find 3 different love notes scratched into your wall. One is from Marcella, the baker's wife. She watches you train every morning while pretending to shop for bread. She's been buying the same loaf for 3 weeks now. Another is from Quintus, the senator's son. He keeps accidentally dropping his money purse near the training ground, so you'll bend over to pick it up. The third is from your fellow gladiator Crixus. His cell is 2 doors down. You've been meeting him after midnight for the past 6 months, when the guards are drunk enough to pretend they don't notice 2 of Rome's deadliest warriors sneaking into each other's rooms like teenagers avoiding their parents. The proof that your story isn't some modern idea or wishful thinking was discovered in 1767. That's when diggers uncovered the gladiator barracks and found something that made them immediately close the site to the public for more study. This was Victorian code for, "Oh gods, there's so much gay writing on the walls, we don't know what to do." On the walls of your cell, preserved perfectly under 17 feet of volcanic ash like ancient text messages that refuse to disappear. Someone had carved, "Celadus the Thracian makes the girls sigh and the boys dream." Not dream in a metaphorical way, not admire his fighting skills. Dream. The Latin is clear and undeniable. You were someone who loved both men and women in a time before that word existed. Someone thought it was important enough to carve into stone. It's like finding out that the star quarterback also dated half the football team, and everyone just thought it was normal. This discovery, made throughout the ongoing digging of Pompeii's gladiator barracks from 1767 to today, reveals something extraordinary about what it meant to be a man, and about love in the ancient world. As we settle in tonight, we're going to uncover not just what archaeologists found scratched into walls and carved into stone, but what it tells us about the surprisingly relatable lives of men who could kill you with their thumb, but also wrote love poetry to other men between death matches. But before we begin this journey together, write in the comments where you are listening from. It's fascinating to learn where in the world you are. Also, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. Now dim the lights and prepare to discover why this story will change how you think about ancient tough guys and possibly make you reconsider every gladiator movie you've ever watched. Chapter 1. The Barracks of Broken Hearts. Your cell in the gladiator barracks is about 6 feet by 8 feet, which is actually generous by gladiator standards, but would make a modern prison cell look like a luxury hotel room. The walls are covered in writing. Not just yours, but from generations of gladiators who lived, loved, and died in this space before you. Above your simple straw mattress, someone has carved a very detailed drawing of male body parts, which you've grown fond of. It's like having a roommate who never talks, but has a very specific sense of humor. The barracks themselves form a large square around a central training ground where you spend most of your daylight hours. There are about 60 cells total, housing anywhere from 80 to 100 gladiators at any given time, because privacy was apparently something that hadn't been invented yet, along with deodorant and the idea that maybe watching people kill each other for entertainment might be wrong. The smell is distinctive, A combination of sweat, leather, oil, blood, and whatever the kitchen is claiming is soup today. It's like a gym had a baby with a butcher shop and raised it in a locker room. But the walls tell a different story than the one you might expect from history's most deadly dormitory. Dr. Lorenzo Fergola, who has been digging and studying the gladiator-barracks since the 1990s, discovered that about 30% of the readable writing involves romantic or sexual content. Of that, nearly half talks about same-sex relationships or desires. These aren't hidden in secret corners or written in code. They're right there on the main walls, as casual as a grocery list, if your grocery list included bread, wine, oil for training, and Crixus has magnificent thighs. Your own cell contains 17 different inscriptions that archaeologists have carefully translated and dated. 3 are about your victories in the arena. 2 are advertisements, apparently. Previous occupants offered services ranging from excellent massage to something involving olive oil that I can't describe in detail here. 4 are drawings, including one of you that someone labelled Celadus, Pearl of the Girls, Glory of the Boys, which sounds like a terrible cologne advertisement but was apparently meant as a compliment. But the most revealing inscriptions are the personal ones. Crixus was here with Celadus, united in brotherhood and more. The Latin word used, fraternitas, is carefully modified with additions that make it clear this wasn't just friendship. Romans had plenty of words for friendship. They had different words for the kind of friendship that involved sneaking between cells at night and leaving scratch marks on each other that weren't from training. Another inscription, in different handwriting, Mansuetus loves Celadus, who does not return his feelings. Venus has pierced my heart, but Celadus remains stone. Poor Mansuetus. Even gladiators got friend-zoned, though friend-zoning in a gladiator barracks probably meant I like you, but not enough to risk getting stabbed by you during training tomorrow. Dr. Fergola's team also discovered physical evidence that supports the wall writing. Personal items found in the cells include not just weapons and armor, but grooming tools, mirrors, tweezers, and bottles that once contained scented oils. One cell contained what appears to be a love token, a small bronze medal with 2 male figures hugging, about as subtle as a pride flag at a car race. Another had a collection of dice carved with very sexual images, because apparently even ancient warriors needed party games. The most famous gladiator from these barracks besides yourself is Crixus, the net fighter. His wall writing reads, Crixus the net fighter holds the hearts of all the boys. Not some boys. All the boys. Crixus clearly didn't have confidence issues. His cell, 2 doors down from yours, contains even more writing than yours, including what appears to be a scheduling system, Marcus III. Hour after sunset. Titus, dawn. Celadus, whenever he wants. You're special, apparently. You get the unlimited friends and benefits plan. But here's what makes this evidence so remarkable. Gladiators were considered the peak of Roman manhood. You were literally what Roman men wanted to be: strong, dangerous, capable of violence, honored by crowds, desired by everyone. You were the ancient equivalent of being a professional athlete, action movie star, and social media influencer all rolled into one, except with more actual killing and less pretending to drink sponsored protein shakes. Yet here you were, openly involved with other men, advertising it on your walls, and nobody thought this contradicted your masculine status. If anything, it enhanced it. The ability to attract both men and women was seen as proof of your irresistible appeal. You weren't gay or straight or bisexual. Those categories didn't exist. You were just Celadus, who happened to be so overwhelmingly attractive that limiting yourself to one gender would have been unfair to the other. It's like being so good at a video game that you have to play with both hands tied behind your back. Except the game is romance, and your hands are very much not tied, unless... Well, that's another inscription we can't fully translate here. Chapter 2. Blood, Sweat, and Love Letters. The morning training session begins at dawn, which arrives with all the subtlety of a drunk elephant in a pottery shop. The trainer, a former gladiator who survived long enough to retire, which makes him either very skilled or very lucky, possibly both, starts banging his wooden sword against a shield. It's the world's worst alarm clock, but it's impossible to sleep through, like having a neighbor who's decided 5 a.m. is the perfect time to learn the drums. You stumble out of your cell, still half asleep, to find Crixus already warming up in the central courtyard. He's practicing with his net and trident, the traditional weapons of a retiarius, moving with a kind of smooth grace that makes you temporarily forget he could absolutely kill you if he wanted to. The morning light catches the oil on his skin. Gladiators oil themselves before training, partly for practical reasons, partly because looking good while potentially dying is apparently very important. Several other gladiators have stopped their own warm-ups to watch. "Stop staring and start stretching," barks the trainer, though he's also watching Crixus with what could charitably be called professional interest. Save the admiration for after training, when you're too exhausted to do anything about it. The training ground is where the paradox of gladiator love becomes most apparent. Here you are, learning 17 different ways to hurt someone with a short sword while simultaneously flirting with your sparring partner. It's like a poetry reading held in a mosh pit. You're expected to be brutal and tender, violent and passionate, deadly and desirable. It's exhausting. No wonder gladiators had such short life expectancies. It wasn't just the fighting, it was the emotional labor. Your sparring partner today is Hermes, a new arrival from Rome who hasn't learned the social dynamics yet. He's 19, fresh from the training school in the capital, and he keeps his distance from everyone, but on the walls of the bathroom, because that's where all the best gossip gets carved. Someone has already written, "Hermes seeks a protector. Inquire within." Below it, at least 6 different gladiators have added their names, like the world's most dangerous dating auction. The archaeology of the training ground itself tells its own story. Dr. Alison Cooley, studying the wear patterns on the ground, noticed something interesting. Certain areas show signs of activities that don't match combat training. Secluded corners with no strategic training value show a lot of use. Small alcoves that would be terrible for practicing sword work have oil lamp residue, suggesting nighttime use. It's like finding out your gym has a lot of very specific stretching areas that people only use after hours. Between training sessions, you return to your cell to find a new inscription on your wall. It's in Greek, which means it's from someone educated, probably wealthy. It reads, "Your admirer watches from the stands tomorrow. After your victory, look for the blue cloak." These kinds of messages were common. Gladiators received what amounted to fan mail carved directly into their walls by admirers who bribed the guards for access. It's like having stalkers, but encouraged by society and carved into stone for all time. The writing reveals an entire system of desire surrounding the gladiator barracks. Wealthy Romans of all genders would pay guards to let them in at night. Some came for quick encounters, the ancient equivalent of a Tinder hookup, but with more risk of actual stabbing. Others sought longer arrangements. One inscription reads, "Lucius Aelius has taken Pardus the Samnite under his protection. All debts paid, freedom promised." It's a business transaction, a love note, and a social contract all in one. Pardus gets a patron who might buy his freedom. Lucius gets, well, a gladiator. Everyone wins, except possibly Pardus's other admirers who have angrily scratched out parts of the inscription. But the most touching inscriptions are between gladiators themselves. These men who faced death together also found love together, and they weren't shy about documenting it. Thrax and Celadus, brothers in the arena, lovers in the cell. Priscus died in the games, Verus mourns him still. "If I die tomorrow, tell Crixus he was my last thought." "Celadus, that last one is yours, carved the night before a particularly dangerous match against a veteran from Capua. You survived, obviously, since you're here in September 78 CE. But the inscription remains. Crixus has added his own response below it, "Don't you dare die." Who else would put up with your snoring? The physical evidence supports these emotional connections. Archaeologists have found gladiator graves with paired burials, 2 men buried together with hands linked. Their epitaphs, when they survive, sometimes mention brotherhood beyond the arena. One particularly moving example from Rome itself reads, Here lies Marcus, gladiator, who died in his 23rd year. His brother-in-arms Titus erected this monument. They share now in death the cell they shared in life. The Latin is unclear. Cell could mean their barracks room or something more metaphorical. But the fact they were buried together in expensive graves paid for by the survivor suggests a bond beyond mere friendship. Chapter 3. The arena of desire, game day, arrives with the kind of fanfare that makes modern sporting events look like quiet tea parties. It's the Ides of September, and the entire city of Pompeii is turned out for the games. The amphitheatre, which can hold 20,000 people, impressive, considering the entire city only has about 15,000 residents, meaning tourists have come from miles around to watch you potentially die for their amusement, is packed to the wooden rafters that definitely don't meet any reasonable safety standards. You're in the preparation chambers beneath the arena, and the atmosphere is complicated. Part locker room before the big game, part funeral home before a viewing. Some gladiators are praying to their gods. Others are oiling their muscles with the focus of someone preparing for both a fight and a fashion show. Crixus is adjusting his net with the kind of careful attention usually reserved for wedding preparations or defusing a bomb. Hermes, the new boy, is throwing up in a corner, which is traditional for first-timers. Someone has helpfully carved Hermes puked here on the wall because gladiators are nothing if not supportive. The writing in these preparation chambers tells a story of pre-fight rituals that archaeologists initially misunderstood. Mars, let me survive to see his face again, was first interpreted as a gladiator thinking of his wife or female lover. But cross-referencing with other inscriptions reveals his refers to another gladiator, Antonius, whose own cell contains matching prayers. They were lovers praying to survive for each other, which is simultaneously heartbreaking and beautiful, like a Hallmark card written in blood. Dr. Kathleen Coleman of Harvard, studying gladiator culture, notes that these emotional bonds actually made strategic sense. Gladiators who fought in pairs or groups, like you and Crixus sometimes do, in staged naval battles, fought better when emotionally connected. You're literally more likely to survive if you're fighting alongside someone you love. It's battlefield motivation at its most basic. I can't die today. We have dinner plans. The crowd above is chanting now, and you can make out some of the words. Your name features prominently, as does Crixus's. But there's also kiss him, which might seem strange for a blood sport, but this is Rome, where the line between violence and romance is less a boundary and more a suggestion. The crowd wants blood, death, and romantic tension, preferably all at once. It's like reality TV, but with actual reality and significantly more death. You enter the arena to thunderous applause. The sun is brutal. The sand is already hot enough to burn through your sandals. And somewhere in the crowd, at least 17 people are composing wall writing about how good you look in your minimal armor. Your opponent today is a murmillo named Felix, which means lucky, though given that he's about to fight you, the name seems overly optimistic. He's built like someone fed a bear nothing but protein and rage, but you've noticed his footwork is sloppy when he turns left. You've also noticed he has beautiful eyes, which is probably not strategically relevant, but your brain files it away anyway. The fight itself is a dance of violence and skill that modern audiences would find both familiar and strange. It's choreographed, but not fake. The blood is real. The danger is real. But you're not actually trying to kill each other unless given the death signal. It's professional wrestling. If professional wrestling occasionally ended in actual death and the audience got to vote on the outcome, like the world's most brutal reality show. You win because of course you do, you're Celadus the Thracian, and this story doesn't end with your death for another year. Felix yields. The crowd votes for mercy. He fought well, and more importantly, looked good doing it. You both leave the arena alive. The crowd throws tokens, flowers, and occasionally underwear into the arena. One particularly enthusiastic fan has thrown a wax tablet with Room 3 at Africanus tonight carved into it. Another has thrown what appears to be a love poem written on papyrus, though the meter is terrible and they've rhymed gladius with radius, which doesn't even make sense. Back in the barracks that evening, the post-game atmosphere is electric. Gladiators who survived are celebrating. Those who have upcoming fights are training, and everyone is carving new writing. The walls are like ancient social media after a major event. Everyone has opinions, and they're all permanent. Celadus, fought like Mars himself, appears on the bathroom wall. Felix's footwork was shameful, but his butt is divine, someone adds below. Crixus could catch me in his net any day, writes another admirer. The referee was blind. That second hit was clearly illegal, complains someone who apparently attended ancient sporting events just to argue about the officiating. But the most interesting writing appears in your cell that night. It's from Crixus. Watched you fight. My heart stopped 3 times. Don't do that again. Below it, in smaller letters, your victory gift awaits. My cell, midnight. The guards will be drunk by then, celebrating their betting wins or drowning their losses. The night is yours to do with as you please, and what pleases you is apparently Crixus. Chapter 4. The Economics of Gladiator. Love, the business of being a desired gladiator, is more complex than just winning fights and looking good covered in oil and blood, though. Those are definitely the foundation of your brand, like having a good LinkedIn profile but with more stabbing. Your market value extends beyond the arena into what modern economists would call diverse revenue streams, though ancient Romans would call it getting paid for various activities, some of which we can't describe here. Your owner because, yes, you're technically a slave, though a very valuable one, like a Ferrari that can stab people, is Numerius Papidius Ampliatus. He views you as an investment. He paid 15,000 sesterces for you 3 years ago, and you've already earned him twice that through victory prizes and side arrangements. These side arrangements are documented in the wall writing with surprising financial detail. One inscription reads, Celadus, available for private demonstrations. 100 sesterces per hour. No touching unless negotiated separately. It's like OnlyFans, but carved in stone, and the real possibility of accidental death. The archaeological evidence from the barracks includes what amounts to ancient accounting tablets. Dr. Matthew Perry, not the actor, the archaeologist, though the confusion has led to some interesting conference introductions, discovered wax tablets listing gladiators' earnings and expenses. Your name appears frequently, with entries like private performance for senator's wife, 200 sesterces and entertainment at Quintus's birthday, 500 sesterces, combat demonstration and additional services. The additional services are left undefined, but other wall writing from Quintus's house suggests they involved less combat and more close quarters training. But here's where it gets interesting. Male admirers consistently paid more than female ones. A wealthy woman might pay 100 sesterces for a private meeting with a gladiator. A wealthy man would pay 300 for the same time. The wall writing suggests several reasons. Discretion cost extra. The risk was higher, and frankly, the wealthy Roman men were terrible at negotiating when attractive gladiators were involved. It's like surge pricing, but for ancient thirst. Crixus, your net fighting partner, has his own economic situation documented on the walls. Crixus, 50 victories, 10,000 sesterces earned. Heart belongs to Celadus, priceless. Someone has added below, if priceless. Why did I see him accept 50 sesterces from Marcus last week? To which someone else replied, that was for massage, you gossiping harpy. The ancient economy of love was complicated. The gladiator-barracks functioned as what Dr. Perry calls a homosocial economy with homoerotic undertones, which is academic speak for a bunch of dudes living together who were definitely doing more than just training. Gladiators shared everything: food, quarters, training, the constant threat of death, and frequently their beds. The wall writing documents complex emotional and financial relationships. Thrax owes Celadus 30 sesterces and 1 favor to be determined. Hermes under protection of Antonius. All debts transferred. Crixus and Celadus share all earnings, witnessed by Mars and Venus. That last one is particularly interesting because it suggests something like a financial partnership, or even what we might recognize as a domestic partnership. You and Crixus have essentially merged your economic lives, which in Roman society was as close to marriage as 2 male gladiators could get. The fact that it's witnessed by Mars and Venus, the gods of war and love, adds a religious element that makes it even more official. You're basically married if marriage involved more nets and tridents and the constant possibility of death. The archaeological record also reveals the gifts exchanged between gladiators and their admirers, small bronze tokens with gladiatorial scenes, rings with carved gemstones, oil flasks with personalized inscriptions. One particularly touching find, a small bronze mirror inscribed, "So Celadus can see himself as I see him, perfect." It was found in your cell, carefully wrapped in cloth, preserved by the volcanic ash like an ancient love letter that happened to be made of metal. But the economy of gladiator desire wasn't just about money and gifts, it was also about power, protection, and potential freedom. The wall writing documents numerous cases of wealthy Romans purchasing gladiators, freedom specifically to continue relationships outside the barracks.
Lucius Aurelius has purchased Pardus from the Ludus. They retire to his villa in Herculaneum.
It's like Pretty Woman, but with more scars and a higher body count. Your own situation is documented in an inscription from early 78 CE. Numerius considers selling Celadus to Senator Quintus for 30,000 sesterces. Below it, in angry scratches, Crixus will raise 31,000. Below that, where would Crixus get 31,000? And finally, none of your business. The drama of it all makes modern reality TV look subtle. Chapter 5, the final performance. October in Pompeii is usually perfect, warm but not overwhelming, with cool evenings ideal for the kind of activities that gladiators engage in when they're not actively trying not to die. But this October, 78 CE, the mountain has been restless. Small earthquakes rattle the barracks daily, and the wells taste of sulfur. The old gladiators, the ones who've survived long enough to be superstitious about everything, mutter about omens. But you're 26, you're in love, and you've survived 12 arena fights. What's a little earthquake compared to a Nubian with a warhammer? The final games of the season are scheduled for late October, and the wall writing suggests everyone knows they'll be special. Come see Celadus and Crixus fight together. Romance and violence in equal measure, someone has advertised on the forum walls. Place your bets, will they kiss or kill? Adds another wit. The whole city is invested in your relationship. Like ancient shippers who take their fan fiction way too seriously, in your cell you're preparing for what you don't know will be your last fight in Pompeii. A year from now, Vesuvius will ensure no one fights in this arena ever again. But tonight you're oiling your skin, checking your armor, and reading the latest wall writing editions. Someone new has written, "Celadus, you gave me reason to live when I had none. A grateful admirer." It's expensive handwriting, the kind taught to senators' sons and merchant princes. Crixus appears in your doorway. The doors were removed years ago because privacy is apparently for people who don't kill for a living. He's already in his fighting gear, the net draped over his shoulder like the world's most dangerous fashion accessory. "Ready, partner?" he asks, and the word carries weight. In the arena, you'll fight as a team against another pair. Your lives literally depend on each other, which is either romantic or codependent, possibly both. The archaeology of paired gladiator. Fights reveals fascinating dynamics. Successful pairs often fought together for years, developing an almost telepathic understanding. The wall writing documents famous pairs, Primus and Secundus, 7 victories together, united in all things. Castor and Pollux stage names, obviously, the lovers who fight as one. Your pairing with Crixus has already earned its own wall writing following. Celadus and Crixus, proof that love conquers all, except that one time with the Gaul, but we don't talk about that. Dr. Marcus Junkelman, who has studied and recreated gladiatorial combat, notes that emotional bonds between fighting partners created a feedback loop of survival. You fight harder to protect someone you love. They fight harder to protect you, and everyone is more likely to leave the arena alive. It's battlefield psychology at its most basic. Love as a survival mechanism. Evolution would be proud if evolution wasn't busy creating humans who think watching death matches is entertainment. The walk to the arena is always surreal. The crowd parts to let you through. Some reach out to touch you for luck. Others throw flowers or tokens. A young man, barely 16, shouts, "Celadus, I love you." His father immediately claps a hand over his mouth, but not before you've heard it. You wink at him because you're about to risk your life for entertainment. Might as well make someone's day first. In the preparation chamber, the atmosphere is different from usual. There's an undercurrent of tension that has nothing to do with the upcoming fight. The mountain has been particularly active today. Even the animals in the lower chambers are restless. The lions won't stop pacing. The bears are moaning. And the elephants, yes, they have elephants because regular deadly animals aren't exciting enough, are trumpeting nervously. The fight itself is a masterpiece of choreographed violence. You and Crixus move together like dancers who happen to be carrying deadly weapons. The crowd goes wild every time you protect each other. Every time Crixus catches an opponent's weapon in his net while you strike. Every time you block a blow meant for him. It's partnership at its most visceral. Love expressed through not letting someone stab your boyfriend. You win because this is your story and you're good at what you do. The crowd throws more than the usual flowers and tokens. Someone has actually thrown a small purse of gold, which is excessive but appreciated. Another has thrown a wooden tablet with an extremely detailed proposition that makes even you, a gladiator who has seen everything, raise an eyebrow. That night, the celebrations in the barracks are intense. Wine flows freely watered because fighting with a hangover is a terrible idea, and the wall-writing artists are working overtime. New inscriptions appear hourly. Celadus and Crixus, champions of the arena and each other. That synchronized net and sword move in the third round was either practiced or proof of soulmates. Hermes threw up again, but from excitement this time. You and Crixus retire to his cell. It has a better view of the mountain, which is glowing faintly in the darkness. You don't know that the glow is magma beginning its rise. Don't know that in less than a year, this entire barracks will be buried under tons of volcanic ash, preserving your wall writing, your love notes, your entire world for future archaeologists to discover. All you know is that tonight you're alive. You're victorious. And you're with someone who understands the strange dance of violence and tenderness that defines your life. Someone has carved new wall writing on Crixus's wall while you were fighting. Here, love conquers death daily. It's melodramatic, but then again, you're gladiators in ancient Rome. Melodrama is basically your job description. Chapter 6. Love eternal in volcanic stone. The story of what happened to Pompeii's gladiator barracks in 79 CE is written not just in ash and rock, but in the positions of the bodies found by archaeologists. When Vesuvius finally erupted on October 24, 79 CE, almost exactly a year after your last great victory, most gladiators were in the barracks. The archaeological evidence tells a story of final moments that are both heartbreaking and remarkably revealing about the relationships these men shared. In one cell, archaeologists found two sets of remains embracing, their arms linked in death. The positioning wasn't accidental. These two chose to die together rather than separately. Analysis of the bones suggests both were gladiators, based on the distinctive marks left by repeated training and combat. They died as they lived, together. The wall writing in that cell, painstakingly recovered, includes Thrax and Marcus. United forever. Forever turned out to be literally true, preserved in volcanic ash for nearly 2,000 years. Dr. Estelle Laser, who has studied the body casts from Pompeii, notes that several pairs of gladiators were found in positions suggesting they were comforting each other in their final moments. One pair was discovered with the smaller gladiator's head cradled against the larger one's chest. Another pair died holding hands, their fingers intertwined so tightly that the ash preserved the grip perfectly. These weren't just colleagues or cellmates. These were people who loved each other enough to seek comfort together as the world ended. Your story, Celadus the Thracian story, ends differently. No bodies matching your description were found in the barracks. The wall writing trail goes cold after October 78 CE, suggesting you might have won your freedom in that final year, or perhaps been sold to another ludus. Some historians like to imagine you and Crixus earned enough to buy your freedom and escaped before the eruption. It's a romantic notion, and in the absence of evidence to the contrary, why not believe it? History needs its happy endings, even if we have to imagine them. But whether you died in Pompeii or lived to fight another day, your legacy survived in those walls. The wall writing you left, the inscriptions about your loves and victories waited under tons of ash to tell future generations a truth that many tried to ignore or suppress, that love between men existed openly in ancient Rome, that masculinity and same-sex desire weren't contradictory, that gladiators, the ultimate masculine symbols, loved men as freely as they loved women. When the Victorian archaeologists first uncovered the gladiator barracks, they were so scandalized by the wall writing that they literally built walls to hide certain inscriptions. Giuseppe Fiorelli, excavating in the 1860s, wrote in his private journal, "The inscriptions in the gladiator quarters are of such a nature that they cannot be shared with the public without causing moral outrage." He was talking about declarations of love between men who killed for a living. The Victorians, who thought table legs were too sexy to show uncovered, couldn't handle gladiators in love. It wasn't until the late 20th century that scholars began properly documenting and translating all the wall writing, not just the bits that fit their preconceptions. Dr. Antonio Verona's comprehensive study, published in 2001, finally revealed the full scope of relationships in the gladiator barracks. The reaction from the academic community was essentially, oh wow. They were really, really gay. Like incredibly gay. How did we miss this? The answer, of course, is that they didn't miss it. They ignored it, covered it up, or explained it away. For over a century, scholars performed mental gymnastics to avoid the obvious conclusion that gladiators loved men. They were just very good friends, the historians said about men who literally carved "I would die for him" into stone. It's metaphorical. They insisted about inscriptions that explicitly described physical acts that were definitely not metaphorical. Today, the gladiator barracks tell a different story to the millions who visit Pompeii each year. The wall writing is translated, explained, and presented as what it is: evidence of the full spectrum of human love and desire. Tour guides point out the love notes between gladiators with the same matter-of-fact tone they use to describe the forum or the baths, because that's what it was to the people who lived there. Matter-of-fact, normal, unremarkable, except in its intensity. The legacy of gladiators like Celadus and Crixus challenges our modern assumptions about the past. We like our history neat, our categories clear, our ancient masculinity toxic and heterosexual. But the walls of Pompeii refuse to cooperate with our simplifications. They insist on complexity, on contradiction, on the messy reality of human experience. Modern scholars studying the gladiator barracks continue to find new inscriptions as technology improves. Multispectral imaging has revealed wall writing previously invisible to the naked eye. In 2019, a newly discovered inscription read, "Here trained Celadus, who conquered hearts as easily as opponents." Below it, in different handwriting, confirmed. Source: My Conquered Heart. The gladiators of Pompeii were warriors and lovers, slaves and celebrities, violent and tender, masculine and emotional. They lived in a world that categorized love differently than we do, but the emotions they felt, love, desire, jealousy, devotion, are immediately recognizable across 2,000 years. They loved freely and openly, carving their hearts into stone walls that would outlast an empire. Your story, Celadus, preserved in volcanic ash and ancient wall writing, reminds us that LGBTQ+ people didn't suddenly appear in the 20th century. You weren't invented by modern liberalism or created by contemporary culture. You existed. You loved. You were celebrated in your own time. You were simultaneously the peak of masculine warrior culture and openly involved with other men. You contained multitudes, as did your society, as do all societies when we look closely enough. The final wall writing attributed to you, carved shortly before the historical record goes silent, reads simply, Celadus lived, loved, fought. That is enough. 2,000 years later, it still is. As our journey through the gladiator barracks of Pompeii concludes tonight, we're reminded that the past is far from dusty and dull. It's a vibrant, often surprising, and always intriguing tapestry woven with human ingenuity, resilience, and the occasional ancient mystery that still makes us wonder. Until our next archaeological adventure together, this is Stone-Wrought Historian, encouraging you to remain curious about the incredible tales still waiting to be discovered beneath our feet. Sweet dreams, fellow explorers. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and may your rest be filled with wonder at the remarkable tapestry of human history. But for now, stay tuned, as we have a bonus story coming right up, read especially for you by our guest narrator.
The Viking secret, hidden in a comb that rewrites the Dark Ages. Let's be honest for a moment. When you think of the Dark Ages, what picture pops into your head? Probably a fellow named something like Ugg, covered in a respectable amount of mud, whose primary skills involve grunting, pointing at things, and being tragically trampled by a horse he failed to notice. We've been fed this image for centuries, a vast 1,000-year gap in human history populated by ignorant, superstitious peasants who thought bathing was a form of black magic, and whose greatest cultural achievement was inventing new and exciting ways to die of plague. It's a convenient story, painting everything between the fall of Rome and the Renaissance as one long, dirty intellectual power nap. This story has been propped up by the books that survived, mostly written by monks who, to be fair, had a bit of a vested interest in portraying the secular world as a godless mess. They were the ones with the ink and the parchment, so they got to write the reviews. And for a long time, we just took their word for it. It was easy. It made us feel awfully clever and sophisticated by comparison. We have indoor plumbing and streaming services. They had dysentery and the lingering suspicion that a bad harvest was their neighbor Agatha's fault for looking at a goat funny. It's a clean, simple, and utterly condescending picture, and it is completely, fundamentally wrong. Tonight, you are not a mud-caked simpleton. The year is 975. You live in a city roaring with life, full of international trade and cutting-edge technology. You are a master craftsman, an entrepreneur, a vital part of a complex urban economy. You are one of the most skilled artisans in the bustling Viking metropolis of Jorvik, what will one day be called York in England. And your trade, the thing that puts food on your table and a roof over your head, is making combs. Yes, combs. And you are about to discover how that simple, everyday object is a key that unlocks a completely different dark age. The proof? Archaeologists didn't need a time machine. They just needed to dig. In the waterlogged soil of a street called Coppergate, they found your life. Not a story, not a text, but the physical, undeniable receipts of your existence. They found your house, your workshop, your tools, your mistakes. They found tens of thousands of pieces of antler and bone, the raw materials, the scraps, the failed attempts, and the finished beautiful combs. It's the ancient equivalent of finding a 10th century artisan's entire workshop, complete with the contents of his recycling bin, perfectly preserved. This discovery was so complete, so detailed, it didn't just add to history, it forced a total rewrite. This discovery, made between 1976 and 1981 in the heart of York, reveals something extraordinary about the sophistication of the so-called Dark Ages. As we settle in tonight, we're going to uncover not just what archaeologists found, but what it tells us about the surprisingly relatable lives of people who lived in Jorvik 1,000 years ago. The first thing you're aware of is the smell. It's not a single identifiable scent, it's a symphony of odors, a complex chord played on the nose. There's the damp, peaty smell of the River Ouse, which is less a river and more a semi-liquid highway for the city's ambitions and its waste. Layered on top of that is the rich, comforting smell of wood smoke from 100 hearths, a scent that clings to your clothes, your hair, and your very soul. Beneath it all is the faint, ever-present tang of human living, the subtle notes of unwashed bodies, animal manure from the yards behind the houses, and the sharp ammonia-like scent from the tannery down the street. You don't even notice it anymore. It's just the smell of home, the smell of opportunity, the smell of Coppergate, the street of the cupmakers, though your craft is a bit more intricate than that. You swing your legs off the wool-stuffed mattress. You're bare. Feet meet the cold, hard-packed earthen floor of your home. It's a long, narrow building, a classic urban Viking design that archaeologists a millennium from now will call a Bergage-plot, a fancy term for a terrace house, really. It's a single deep room fronting the street and stretching back into a small yard. You live where you work, and you work where you live. There's no commute, which is a plus. There's also no privacy, which is a minus. In the dim light filtering through the open smoke hole in the roof, you can see your wife and 2 children still asleep on their own bedding near the central hearth, where the embers of last night's fire are still glowing faintly. They look peaceful for now. Your house is made of wood, wattle, and daub. The walls are between sturdy oak posts. It's a marvel of engineering, or at least that's what you tell yourself. The posts and planks were cut with axes and adzes of remarkable quality, tools you respect as a fellow craftsman. The walls are a woven lattice of hazel branches, smeared with a thick paste of clay, dung, and straw. It's surprisingly good insulation, though it does tend to crumble a bit if you lean against it too hard. Future archaeologists will find the ghostly outlines of these very posts, the dark stains in the soil perfectly mapping the floor plan of your life. They'll even find the impressions of the woven wattle in chunks of fire-hardened daub, a perfect fingerprint of your home. They'll marvel at its construction. You just wish it kept the drafts out a little better. You pull on a pair of wool trousers and a linen tunic, simple, functional. The wool is a bit scratchy, but it's warm, and it has that lanolin oil in it that makes it naturally water-resistant, a useful feature in a city where the weather seems to have only 2 settings, raining and about to rain. Your wife spun this wool herself, dyed it with woad to a faded blue. It's good work. Everything in your life is made by hand, by someone you probably know. The concept of a factory in a faraway land is a kind of abstract sorcery you can't even imagine. Your leather shoes, stitched with waxed linen thread, were made by Ivar 3 doors down. The iron buckle on your belt was hammered out by Bjorn at the smithy near the river. Your world is small, tangible, and interconnected by skill. Before you do anything else, you need to get the fire going properly. You carefully add some dried twigs and peat to the embers, blowing gently until a small flame catches. The smoke curls upward, most of it finding the hole in the roof. The rest of it decides to take a scenic tour of the room, adding to the permanent smoky haze that will eventually blacken the roof beams. This smoke is both a nuisance and a blessing. It keeps the insects down and slowly cures any meat you hang from the rafters, giving it a flavor that food critics of the future would probably pay a fortune for. Calling it artisanal or hearth-smoked, you just call it Tuesday. With the fire crackling a little more, light enters your world. You can see your workshop now, which is also your living room, and depending on the time of day, your dining room. It's the front part of the house, the part that opens onto the street. Your workbench, a heavy slab of oak, stands against one wall. On it, and on shelves above it, are the tools of your trade. Saws with fine iron blades, rasps and files of varying coarseness, small knife-like draw knives for cutting the teeth of your combs, and polishers made of smooth stone or bone. These aren't crude implements. They are precise, specialized instruments. When those archaeologists dig this place up, they will find these very tools, rusted but recognizable. They'll analyze the metal and find its high-quality steel, some of it perhaps imported from the Rhineland. They will see the wear patterns and understand the specific motions you use day after day, year after year. They will in essence be able to read the story of your working life, from the ghost of a tool you are about to pick up. But for you, it's just your gear, and it's time to get to work. Your most important raw material, however, isn't on the bench. It's in a pile in the corner, smelling faintly of the wild. It's a stack of red deer antlers. This is the heart of your craft. Not just any bone will do. You need antler. It's denser, stronger, and more flexible than bone. It has a beautiful grain to it when polished, and getting it is half the battle. You don't hunt the deer yourself. You're a city dweller, a specialist. You buy your stock from traders who get it from hunters in the vast forests outside the city. Red deer naturally shed their antlers every year, so a good portion of your supply is shed antler, collected from the forest floor. The rest comes from hunted animals. Each piece is unique. You pick one up, feeling its weight, its texture. Your mind is already working, visualizing how you can cut it into flat plates with the least amount of waste. Waste is lost profit. This is a concept that needs no translation across the centuries. The first step is the hardest. You have to saw the antler beam into rough segments. Your saw is a simple frame saw, a thin blade held in tension by a wooden frame. It's powered by you. There are no power tools, no electricity. There is only muscle, sweat, and a deep, ingrained understanding of the material. As you begin to saw, the rhythmic rasping sound fills the small house. It's a sound your family is so used to they can probably sleep right through it. Sawdust, fine and white, begins to coat your hands and the floor. It has a unique, slightly chalky smell. The archaeologists will find layers of this dust compacted into the floor of your workshop, a microscopic testament to your daily grind. Once you have a segment, you have to split it. You use a wedge and a mallet, carefully tapping along the grain. The antler resists, and you have to know just where and how hard to strike. A mistake here, a split in. The wrong place. And the piece is ruined, relegated to the scrap pile for making something small, like a needle or a pin. But you've been doing this since you were a boy, taught by your father. Your hands know the way. The antler gives way with a satisfying crack, revealing the spongy core and the dense outer layers. It's this dense outer material that you're after. You'll spend the next hour carefully cutting and shaving these curved pieces into flat, rectangular plates, the raw blanks that will eventually become the side plates of a composite comb. A composite comb. It sounds simple, but it's a small marvel of engineering. You don't just carve a comb from a single piece of antler. That would be too fragile, the teeth breaking along the grain. Instead, you create a multi-part assembly. You'll cut a series of smaller, thinner plates for the teeth. Then you'll sandwich these tooth plates between two decorative side plates, riveting them all together with small pins of iron or bronze. It's a strong, durable, and elegant design. It also means you can use smaller pieces of antler more efficiently. It is, in its own way, a form of mass production, and you are a master of it. Your work is interrupted by the sound of your children waking up. The small house is suddenly filled with a different kind of energy. Your wife is up now, coaxing the fire, preparing a simple breakfast of coarse bread and maybe some leftover fish stew from the night before. The bread is dense and chewy, made from barley and rye. You eat it with a chunk of hard cheese. It's not fancy, but it's fuel. As you eat, you can hear the city outside coming to life, the rumble of cartwheels on the packed earth street, the shouting of merchants setting up their stalls, the distant bellow of a blacksmith's forge. Jorvik is awake and ready for business. And you have an order to fill. A wealthy merchant, a man named Ketil, who trades in amber from the Baltic and furs from the north, has commissioned a set of combs from you. Not just your standard, everyday models, but fine, decorative pieces. He wants them for his wife, a gift. This is a prestige job. It means you can use your best antler, take your time with the polishing, and add some flair. It also means he'll pay well, perhaps in silver coins freshly minted right here in Jorvik. Or perhaps he'll pay in kind, a bolt of fine wool, a bag of German salt, something you can use or trade yourself. The economy here is a fluid mix of coin and barter. It's all about what things are worth. You turn your attention to the side plates for Ketil's comb. This is where the artistry comes in. Your standard combs are functional, with maybe a few simple incised lines for decoration. But for this, you can show off. You take a fine pointed iron tool and begin to sketch a design onto the smooth antler surface. You're a fan of the popular Bourrée style. Interlacing ribbon-like animals, their bodies twisting and gripping each other in a complex, beautiful pattern. It's a design you see everywhere, on jewelry, on wood carvings, on memorial stones. It's the artistic language of your people. It speaks of power, of nature, of the interconnectedness of things. You work slowly, your hands steady. A slip now would be disastrous. The design isn't just random squiggles, it has a rhythm, a logic. You carve the shallow grooves, then use a different tool to create a series of small punched dots to add texture and depth. It's painstaking work. It requires good light, which is why your workbench is positioned to catch the morning sun from the open doorway. It also requires immense concentration. The world narrows to the few inches of antler under your hand. The sounds of the street, the chatter of your family, it all fades into a low hum. This is the flow state, the zone, a feeling any craftsman or artist from any era would recognize. When archaeologists unearth one of your finished combs, they won't just see a pattern. They'll see your skill, your patience, your artistic sensibility. They'll see a mind at work, a mind that was anything but dark. You, however, are just trying to make sure the weird Viking dragon beast thing you're carving doesn't end up looking like a confused lizard. After a few hours of this detailed work, you need a break. Your back aches from hunching over the bench, and your eyes are strained. You stand up, stretch, and decide to head to the market. You need to buy some more iron rivets from Bjorn the smith, and you've heard a new shipment of soapstone has arrived from the Shetland Islands. Your wife wants a new cooking pot. You grab a small leather pouch of coins and a few of your simpler finished combs to see if you can sell them. You step out of the relative darkness of your house into the chaotic, vibrant life of the street. The street itself is a shock to the senses. It's not paved with stone. It's a mix of trodden earth, gravel, and whatever's been thrown into it, which is everything. Wood chips, straw, food scraps, animal bones. Over the years, these layers get compressed into a dense, solid mass. Archaeologists will love this. They'll dig through these layers like the pages of a book, finding a chronology of your city's life in its own garbage. For you, it's just the ground. It's surprisingly firm underfoot, but after a rain, it turns into a treacherous, sucking mud. You walk carefully. The buildings on Coppergate are packed tightly together. They're timber fronts right on the street. Some have overhanging upper stories, creating a kind of covered walkway. It's a bustling commercial street. You pass the workshop of a leather worker. The sharp chemical smell of the tanning process hits you hard. You see scraps of leather, worn-out shoes waiting to be repaired, and new belts and pouches on display. Further down, a wood-turner is at his pole lathe, shavings of fresh wood flying as he skillfully shapes a bowl. You nod to him. He's a competitor for household goods, but also a colleague. There's a sense of community among the makers and sellers. The market square is an explosion of noise, color, and more smells. So many more smells. There's the salty tang of fish, the earthy scent of root vegetables, the sweet smell of honey from a merchant's stall. But most of all, there's the sound, the cacophony of a dozen different languages. You hear the Norse dialects of your fellow city dwellers, the Old English of the farmers from the countryside, the Gaelic of Irish traders, the guttural German of merchants from the continent. Jorvik is a crossroads. You see faces and clothes from all over the known world. A man in a fine fur-trimmed cloak haggles over a piece of amber the size of a pigeon's egg. A woman sells pottery made in a style from the Rhineland. This isn't an isolated, ignorant backwater. This is London or New York or Tokyo in the 10th century. It's a place where the world comes to do business. The idea that you are living in a dark age of isolation would make you laugh. You can buy a piece of silk that has traveled thousands of miles from the Byzantine Empire, for Odin's sake. You find Bjorn's smithy, a dark, open-fronted workshop filled with the roar of the bellows and the ringing clang of hammer on anvil. The heat hits you from 10 feet away. Bjorn is a mountain of a man, his arms thick with muscle, his face permanently smudged with soot. He greets you with a booming voice. You show him the kind of rivets you need, small and fine, for the combs. He grunts, picks up a thin rod of iron, heats it in the forge until it glows cherry red, and with a few deft, precise taps of his hammer, he forges a perfect rivet for you on the anvil. He makes it look easy. It is not easy. It's a skill as deep and specialized as your own. You trade him 2 of your simpler combs for a bag of 100 rivets, a good deal for both of you. Next, you seek out the soapstone merchant. Soapstone, or steatite, is a wonderfully useful rock. It's soft and easy to carve, but it's also incredibly heat-resistant. It makes the best cooking pots. They don't crack on the fire like clay pots can. But it's not found here. It has to be quarried in the Shetland Islands or Norway and shipped all the way to Jorvik. It's another thread in the vast web of trade that makes your city thrive. The merchant has a stack of rough soapstone pot blanks. You pick one out, checking it for cracks. It's heavy. You pay him in silver pennies, stamped with the name of the current King of York. These little coins are another thing future archaeologists will go crazy for, using their distribution to map the extent of Jorvik's economic influence. To you, it's just money. On your way back, you pause. Something has caught your eye. It's a stall selling trinkets and jewelry, and there, on a piece of dark cloth, is a small object made of jet. It's a deep, lustrous black, polished to a high shine. Jet is another local resource, a fossilized wood found on the nearby coast around Whitby. It's believed to have magical protective qualities. This piece has been carved into the shape of a wolf's head, its eyes inlaid with tiny chips of green glass. It's beautiful. It's also expensive. You think of your wife. Her birthday is in a few weeks. You hesitate. It's an indulgence. The money could be better spent on a new tool or more antler. But life is more than just work and survival. It's about beauty and gestures of love and the small things that bring joy. You make a decision. You haggle with the merchant, a grim-faced man with a braided beard. You don't have enough coin. You offer him 2 of your best remaining combs, plus what little silver you have left. He considers, running a thumb over the fine teeth and the polished surface of your work. He respects the craftsmanship. He nods. The deal is done. You carefully wrap the jet wolf's head in a piece of cloth and tuck it away. You'll have to work extra hard to make up for the cost, but the thought of the look on your wife's face makes it worth it. You head home. The heavy soapstone pot in one arm, a secret treasure in your pocket. The city seems a little brighter now, but as you approach your doorway, you see a figure waiting for you, and your good mood instantly evaporates. It's Eric, and that is never a good thing. Eric is another comb maker. He works at the other end of Coppergate, and to say there's a rivalry between you would be an understatement. You respect his skill. You have to. He's good. But his methods are questionable. He's known for undercutting prices, for using cheaper, less reliable bone instead of antler, and passing it off as the real thing. He has a smile that never quite reaches his cold, calculating eyes. He is, in modern terms, the competitor who leaves fake 1-star reviews on your business page. He's leaning against the doorframe of your house, arms crossed, examining one of your combs he's presumably picked up from your outdoor display board. "Fine work, as always," he says, his voice dripping with a sincerity so false it could curdle milk. A bit old-fashioned, perhaps. The designs, I mean. People want new things, you know. What this is, it's a professional jab, a way of testing you, of trying to get under your skin. You don't take the bait. You simply nod and move to enter your house. "Kettle the merchant seems to like my old-fashioned work well enough," you reply, keeping your voice even. This is the right thing to say. News travels fast on this street. The fact that you have a high-profile commission is a sign of your status, and it clearly irritates him. Eric's smile tightens. "Ah, Kettle, he has more silver than sense. Be careful. A rich patron can be a heavy burden. It's a veiled threat, a little drop of poison in the well. He's reminding you that if you fail to deliver, your reputation will suffer." He pushes himself off the doorframe. Just a friendly warning. He saunters off down the street, leaving a bad taste in the air. This little encounter is a reminder that your world isn't some cozy, pre-modern utopia of happy artisans. It's a competitive, cutthroat marketplace. Your reputation is your most valuable asset, and there are always people like Eric ready to tear it down. The pressure is on. You go back inside. The confrontation with Eric still buzzing in your mind, it steals your resolve. Kettle's combs have to be perfect. You return to your workbench with renewed focus. You spend the rest of the afternoon working on the delicate tooth plates. This is the most crucial and tedious part of the process. You take your prepared antler blanks and using a fine-bladed double saw, you begin to cut the teeth. The saw has two blades set a precise distance apart, allowing you to cut two sides of a tooth at once. It's an ingenious tool that saves time and ensures uniformity. Still, it requires a surgeon's steady hand. You cut one tooth after another, dozens of them, hundreds of them over the course of the day. This repetitive, focused work is almost meditative. Your mind is free to wander. You think about your children. Your son is getting old enough to start learning the trade. Does he have the patience for it? The talent? You hope so. A family trade is a form of security, a legacy passed from one generation to the next. You think about the future. Will Jorvik remain a powerful Viking city? The English kings to the south grow stronger every year. There are whispers of war, of change. Your world, which feels so solid and permanent, is built on a precarious balance of power. But you can't dwell on such things. You have combs to make. You have a family to feed. The big tides of history are for kings and jarls to worry about. Your world is here, in this workshop, with the smell of antler dust in the air. As the sun begins to lower, casting long shadows down the street, you begin the final assembly of one of the combs. You lay one of the decorated side plates face down. You carefully arrange the small tooth plates on top of it. Then you place the second side plate over them, creating the sandwich. Now for the rivets. Using a fine pointed awl, you drill holes through all the layers. It's a tense moment. The antler could split, but your hand is sure. You insert the small iron rivets you got from Bjorn. You place the comb on a small metal anvil, and with a light, precise hammer, you peen the ends of the rivets, flattening them and securing the whole assembly together. It's done. You hold it in your hand. The antler is warm from your touch. You run your thumb over the intricate carving, the smooth, polished surface, the perfectly uniform teeth. It's a good piece of work. It's useful, yes, but it's also beautiful. It is an expression of order and skill in a chaotic world. It's a tiny piece of civilization. Someone 1,000 years from now might dig this up. What will they think? Will they see the hours of work, the years of practice, the creative spark that went into it? Or will they just see a primitive artifact and label you a simple, ignorant barbarian? You hope they see the truth, that you were a person with skill, with ambition, with a family, with rivals, with worries, and with pride in your work. You place the finished comb carefully aside. It's just one of a set. There's more work to be done tomorrow. The evening meal is the main social event of the day. Your wife has been cooking in the new soapstone pot over the hearth. The smell of a thick pottage, a stew of barley, beans, and whatever vegetables are in season, perhaps some onion and cabbage, fills the house. There's a small piece of salted pork in there too, for flavor. It's a hearty, warming meal. You all gather around the fire to eat, scooping the pottage into wooden bowls with spoons you carved yourself. This is the time for stories. You tell your family about your day at the market, about the beautiful jet carving, but you leave out the part about your run-in with Eric. No need to worry them. Your wife tells you about her day, the endless tasks of managing a household, mending clothes, preparing food, keeping the children from causing too much trouble. It's a partnership. Her work is just as skilled and just as vital as yours. Without her, the entire enterprise of your life would collapse. After the meal, as the light fades completely, the city grows quieter. There's no street lighting, of course. The night is dark and deep. Most people are in their homes, but it's not completely silent. You can hear the sound of a lyre being played in a neighboring house, a mournful, simple melody. You can hear the distant laughter from a tavern down by the river. Sometimes a skald, a professional storyteller and poet, will be performing there, reciting the great epic poems about gods and heroes. It's the entertainment of your age, a shared cultural experience that binds you all together. It's how you remember your history, your values, your identity. Before settling down to sleep, You step outside into your small, fenced backyard. This is another area that will fascinate those future archaeologists, because in the corner of this yard is your cesspit, your toilet. It's just a deep hole in the ground, perhaps with a simple wooden structure over it. For you, it's a necessary, if unpleasant, part of life. For archaeologists, it is a treasure chest. The waterlogged, oxygen-free environment of the pit will preserve everything that falls into it with astonishing clarity. They will analyze the contents and be able to reconstruct your diet in incredible detail. They'll find the seeds from the fruits you ate, the bones from the fish and meat, even the parasite eggs that will tell them about your health. They will find discarded objects, a broken pot, a lost pin, a child's leather toy. They will find the story of your private life in your preserved sewage. It's a strange, intimate form of immortality you would probably rather not have. You look up at the sky. Through the haze of wood smoke, you can see the stars, brighter and clearer than anyone in the future will ever see them from this spot. The constellations are familiar friends. They are your clock, your calendar, your map. You feel very small, a tiny speck of life in a vast, dark universe. But you also feel connected to it all. You are a part of this city, this community, this world. You have a purpose, a skill, a family. You head back inside. The fire has been banked for the night, reduced to glowing embers that provide a faint, warm light and a bit of heat. The house is quiet now, save for the soft breathing of your sleeping family. You lie down on your mattress, pulling the thick wool blankets over you. You are tired. It was a long day, a day of hard work, of small victories and minor anxieties, a day like any other. You close your eyes. Your mind drifts. You think about the grain of the antler, the weight of the hammer, the face of your rival, the secret gift hidden away for your wife. You think about the stories you'll tell your son as you teach him the craft. And as you drift off to sleep, your hand might absently touch a small comb you carry in a pouch at your belt, your own personal comb. It's a simple one, not overly decorated, but perfectly made. It's a tool for grooming, for tidiness, for self-respect. It's a rejection of chaos, a small piece of personal order. One day, you might lose it. It might fall from your belt and be trodden into the mud of the street. And the mud, the damp, oxygen-free soil of Jorvik, will keep it safe. It will preserve it, holding it in darkness for 1,000 years. Until one day, another hand, the hand of a curious archaeologist, will lift it back into the light. And that small, simple object, your comb, will speak for you. It will tell them you were not a savage. It will tell them you were a craftsman. It will tell them that your age was not dark at all. It was illuminated by the fire of your forge, the skill of your hands, and the spark of your unquenchable human spirit. And with that comforting thought, you finally fall into a deep and well-earned sleep, ready for another day of making your small, beautiful mark on the world. As our journey through the workshop on Coppergate concludes tonight, we're reminded that the past is far from dusty and dull. It's a vibrant, often surprising, and always intriguing tapestry woven with human ingenuity, resilience, and the occasional ancient mystery that still makes us wonder. This is Stone-Wrought Historian, encouraging you to remain curious about the incredible tales still waiting to be discovered beneath our feet. The Indus Valley, drains, grids, and the civilization. Without kings for centuries, history textbooks have whispered the same old lullaby. To be a great civilization, you need kings, queens, towering temples, and a really good sword collection. You know the drill. Grand conquerors, monumental ego palaces, and a priesthood so powerful they could probably change the channel with a stern look. We've been fed a steady diet of empires built on conquest, magnificent tombs stuffed with gold, and a social hierarchy so rigid it made a concrete block look flexible. But what if I told you that one of humanity's most advanced, most sophisticated urban societies skipped all that drama? What if their greatest monuments were drainage pipes? This ancient narrative, it might just be wrong. Tonight, you are a resident of Mohenjo-Daro, circa 2500 BCE. You're not a king, not a high priest, not even a general with a particularly shiny helmet. You're just you, waking up in a perfectly planned city, your streets cleaner than most capitals today, and your biggest morning decision is whether to grind fresh spices for your breakfast or use last night's blend. And in this world, where no one built colossal temples to grand gods or ostentatious palaces to tyrannical rulers, you lived a life of unexpected comfort and communal harmony, a truth that still bewilders archaeologists. This was a society where collective well-being seemed to trump individual grandeur, where order and practicality were celebrated over ostentation. The proof? Well, it's literally in the bricks. Tens of thousands of perfectly standardized fired brick homes, laid out on a grid plan so precise it could make a modern city planner weep with envy. And then there's the Great Bath, a public pool so advanced it practically had its own ancient plumbing codes. These weren't just buildings, they were the receipts, the undeniable evidence that someone, or rather everyone, was doing things differently here. So completely differently, in fact, that the discovery of this lost world forced us to rethink what civilization truly means. This discovery, made first in the 1920s in what is now modern-day Pakistan and India, reveals something extraordinary about early human organization. As we settle in tonight, we're going to uncover not just what archaeologists found, but what it tells us about the surprisingly relatable lives of people who lived in the Indus Valley between 2500 and 1900 BCE. Write in the comments where you are listening from. It's fascinating to learn where in the world you are. Also, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. Now dim the lights and prepare to discover why this story will change how you think about what it truly means to be a developed society. Chapter 1. Mohenjo-Daro's Grid of Quiet Grandeur. Let's begin tonight, not with a clash of swords or a decree from a king, but with the subtle hum of a perfectly organized city. Imagine yourself now, stepping out of your two-story kiln-fired brick home in Mohenjo-Daro. The morning sun, a gentle warmth, paints the meticulously straight streets in soft, golden hues. This isn't some dusty, haphazard collection of huts we often picture when thinking of ancient settlements. Oh no. This is an urban masterpiece, a triumph of ancient engineering that, frankly, would put many modern cities to shame. And it's your home. Your feet tread on broad streets, wide enough for a couple of ox carts to pass comfortably, laid out in an almost impossibly precise grid pattern. No meandering paths here. No confusing alleyways leading to nowhere. Just clean, straight avenues intersecting at perfect right angles, like a prehistoric game of tic-tac-toe. The buildings flanking these streets are also uniform, built from bricks of a standard size, fired at such high temperatures they've survived millennia. It's a testament to planning, a collective vision on a scale that beggars belief for the time. This wasn't built over centuries by accident. This was designed. Someone or some group really knew their stuff. And speaking of knowing their stuff, let's talk about the plumbing, because, my dear listener, this is where Mohenjo-Daro truly flexes its muscles. An accomplishment so astonishing it makes you wonder what kind of plumbing wizardry was happening in 2500 BCE. Every house, including yours, has access to fresh water from a well, often directly connected or very nearby. And more importantly, almost every house had its own private bathing area, complete with a brick-lined drain leading out to the main street drains. Yes, you heard that right. Personal bathrooms in the Bronze Age. While some later civilizations were still tossing their, well, let's just say unwanted materials out the window, you, a regular citizen of Mohenjo-Daro, were enjoying a level of sanitation that wouldn't become common again until centuries, perhaps even millennia later. Picture it. You step into your private bath, a small enclosed space, perhaps with a simple terracotta basin. The wastewater flows gently down a finely sloped channel, out through your wall and into the covered main drain running beneath the street. These aren't just open ditches. Many of them are covered with brick slabs, a testament to the city's commitment to hygiene. No wonder the air here smells cleaner than what you might expect from a bustling ancient city. It speaks volumes about a society that valued public health, communal welfare, and a certain level of quiet, dignified comfort for all its citizens, not just the elite. They understood that a healthy population was a happy, productive population. This isn't a story of grand battles. It's a narrative of meticulous planning and shared progress, a kind of collective ingenuity that feels remarkably modern. This extraordinary urban design isn't just about convenience. It's a profound statement about the nature of this civilization. The consistent brick sizes across thousands of homes, the identical street widths, the ubiquitous drainage systems. It suggests a powerful central authority, or perhaps a highly cooperative and organized community that valued standardization and equality. But here's the kicker. We find no grand palaces for kings, no massive temples to state-sponsored gods, no monumental military fortresses beyond what might protect against floods. So who was in charge of this meticulous planning? Who maintained the system? The mystery of Mohenjo-Daro's quiet efficiency is just beginning to unfold. But as you drift to sleep tonight, consider the clean streets and fresh water of your ancient home. It's a level of comfort that might just redefine your understanding of the ancient world. Chapter 2. The Whispers of a Silent Script. Now that you've had a good night's rest in your remarkably hygienic Mohenjo-Daro abode, let's ponder another profound mystery of this civilization, one that continues to stump some of the brightest minds in archaeology: their writing. As you walk through the bustling market square, past vendors selling grains, pottery, and perhaps a small, finely carved steatite seal, you notice familiar symbols. They are everywhere, etched onto these tiny seals, impressed onto clay tablets, even subtly visible on some pieces of pottery. These aren't just decorative squiggles. They are the elegant, enigmatic script of the Indus Valley civilization. And it remains, to this very day, stubbornly undeciphered. Imagine the frustration. We have thousands of these short inscriptions, usually no more than 5 characters long, appearing on what look like administrative or commercial tags. But without a Rosetta Stone, without a bilingual text to give us a clue, these beautiful symbols remain silent. What stories do they hold? Records of trade, religious invocations, the names of merchants? We simply don't know. It's like having a library full of books, but no one has ever learned to read the alphabet. You pick up one of these small seals, perhaps depicting a majestic bull or a mythical creature with a unicorn-like horn, and run your thumb over the crisp carvings. Beneath the animal, a short line of symbols. What message are you holding? A transaction? A signature? A secret joke only comprehensible in 2500 BCE? This undeciphered script is just one piece of a larger puzzle that suggests a complex, highly organized society, but one that operated under a very different logic than its contemporaries. Consider the incredible standardization found not just in bricks, but in weights and measures. Everywhere you go in Mohenjo-Daro, and indeed across the entire vast expanse of the Indus Valley from the coast to the mountains, you'd find a consistent system. Small, cubical weights, often made of chert, follow a precise binary system, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, etc., for lighter weights, and a decimal system for heavier ones. This isn't a collection of local markets with their own quirky measurements. This is a unified economic zone. It's like everyone in the ancient world suddenly agreed to use the metric system, but without a powerful king or conquering army to enforce it. Who established this remarkable uniformity? Who ensured its compliance? It's a question that keeps archaeologists up at night, because without a deciphered script, and without those traditional markers of centralized power, like palaces or temples, the mechanism of their governance remains elusive. Were they governed by a council of elders, a collective of merchants, a particularly persuasive urban planner who just really liked right angles and standard weights? It challenges our ingrained assumptions about how complex societies must be structured. Perhaps in this civilization, authority wasn't about individual dominance, but about collective agreement and shared prosperity. As you place the seal back, its silent script a tantalizing mystery, you realize that this society's genius lay not in shouting its achievements from the rooftops, but in embedding them into the very fabric of daily life. From the consistent size of your bricks to the balanced weights used for trade, it's a gentle riddle, a whisper from the past, reminding us that there's more than one way to build a world. And sometimes the most sophisticated systems are the ones that don't need to boast. What other subtle clues are hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to truly understand their quiet wisdom? Chapter 3. The pulse of ancient lives tonight. Let's step beyond the grand designs and the silent scripts and truly feel the pulse of daily life in the Indus Valley, focusing now on its northern jewel, Harappa. You are now a Harappan artisan, perhaps a potter or a bead maker, waking up to the familiar sounds of your neighborhood. The air is thick with the scent of wood smoke, baking bread, and the distant calls of street vendors. While Mohenjo-Daro was impressive, Harappa, just as large and just as planned, reveals even more about the culture and community that thrived here. Your home is modest, but like all others, it's built to last from those ubiquitous uniform bricks. You step out onto a narrow lane, an artery off the main grid, where children are already playing with terracotta toys, tiny carts, miniature animals. The laughter is universal, spanning millennia. Your neighbors are emerging too, heading to communal wells, their clay pots clinking softly. The sense of community is palpable. Everyone plays a part in the smooth running of this city. There are no grand walls separating the rich from the poor, no stark divisions in housing quality. While some homes are larger than others, perhaps indicating slightly more prosperous families, the fundamental access to sanitation, water, and well-built shelter is strikingly democratic. As you head to your workshop, located perhaps near the city's industrial areas, you pass countless other craftspeople, goldsmiths carefully hammering, delicate ornaments, shell workers carving intricate bangles, and potters, like yourself, shaping clay with a rhythm that has echoed through human history. The sheer volume and quality of the artifacts unearthed in Harappa are astounding. Imagine vibrant beads made from carnelian, lapis lazuli, and steatite, traded far and wide, some even found in distant Mesopotamia. These weren't just local trinkets, they were products of a sophisticated network of trade and skilled labor. You might even be creating one of the small, enigmatic terracotta figurines, sometimes depicting robust female figures, or strangely compelling bearded men. Their purpose is still debated. Are they deities, toys, ancestors, a prehistoric action figure line? The possibilities are endless. Your work is precise, guided by tradition and skill passed down through generations. And it's not just about crafting beautiful objects. It's about providing for your family and contributing to the city's economy. The markets here are bustling hubs of activity, a kaleidoscope of colors, sounds, and smells. You see sacks of barley and wheat, fish from the nearby rivers, cotton textiles being bartered. It's a vibrant living city, focused on the practicalities of thriving, not on the grandiose gestures of power. The absence of monumental art depicting kings or battles, or even overtly religious themes, tells a story of a society that prioritized the collective and the functional over individual glorification. And that's why this civilization is so compelling. It speaks to a different kind of human achievement, one built on cooperation, innovation, and a pragmatic approach to daily living. It challenges the notion that human progress must be accompanied by war, conquest, or oppressive hierarchies. Here, in the quiet hum of Harappa's workshops and the convivial chatter of its neighborhoods, you find a world where people lived, loved, and struggled much like us, but under a social contract that valued quiet competence above all else. But what does this profound lack of grandiosity truly tell us about their beliefs, their leadership, and their very conception of power? The biggest revelation about their societal structure is still to come. Chapter 4. The Great Bath and the Unseen Hand. Now let's dive into perhaps the most iconic and enigmatic structure of the Indus Valley civilization, the Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro. You've likely heard whispers of it, perhaps even visited it on a previous stroll through the city. But let's consider its true significance tonight, because it's here, in this monumental yet utterly utilitarian structure, that we truly glimpse the heart of this unique society and challenge some deep-seated assumptions. Imagine it, a colossal, perfectly watertight tank, some 12 meters long, 7 meters wide, and 2.4 meters deep, built with finely fitted bricks and waterproofed with a layer of natural bitumen. Staircases descend into the clear water, and surrounding it are smaller rooms, perhaps for changing or ritual preparation. This isn't just a big bathtub. It's an engineering marvel for its time, requiring immense labor, skill, and resources. It's the closest thing the Indus Valley people built to a monumental public building. But it's not a palace. It's not a temple filled with gold idols. It's a bath. This single structure encapsulates much of what makes the Indus Valley so profoundly different. In other ancient civilizations, think Egypt, Mesopotamia, or later Greece and Rome, their grandest structures were always about power: the tombs of pharaohs, the ziggurats of gods, the forums of emperors. Here, the grandest structure seems to be dedicated to a communal, possibly ritualistic act of purification or gathering. Archaeologists speculate it was used for public bathing rituals, perhaps during specific festivals or important societal events. It suggests a focus on collective well-being, shared experience, and perhaps a form of spiritual practice that was more inclusive, and less about hierarchical worship. This observation is crucial. The consistent absence of explicit evidence for kings, queens, vast armies, or dominant priestly classes is staggering. There are no royal tombs, no depictions of rulers lording over subjects, no grand military campaigns etched into stone. We find a few figures, like the famous priest-king statue, a small, dignified sculpture of a bearded man with a trefoil-patterned cloak. But his title is more a hopeful guess than a certainty. He could have been an administrator, a wise elder, or just a particularly well-dressed dude. The city's fortifications, where they exist, seem designed more to protect against floods and regulate access than to ward off attacking armies. The relatively few weapons found further suggest a surprisingly peaceful society, one that invested its communal energy into urban planning, trade, and sanitation rather than warfare. This challenges the age-old assumption that complex societies must be hierarchical, warlike, and dominated by powerful individuals. The Indus Valley presents an alternative model, one where collective effort, standardized systems, and perhaps a form of decentralized governance ensured order and prosperity. It suggests a society where social cohesion wasn't enforced by fear of a king or divine wrath, but by a shared understanding of what made a city thrive. This makes them a fascinating counter-narrative, suggesting that power doesn't always have to be about overt displays of dominance. Perhaps it can be about quiet administration, a shared commitment to the common good, and a society that allowed for a different kind of civic pride, one based on public utility rather than private extravagance. It begs the question, what other forms of human organization, what other expressions of identity might have flourished in such a uniquely structured society? Chapter 5. Whispers of the Fading River. As we settle deeper into the quiet contemplation of the Indus Valley, let's turn our attention to the civilization's ultimate fate, its mysterious decline. For a society that exemplified such methodical planning and widespread prosperity, its eventual unraveling is as enigmatic as its origins. There was no catastrophic war, no evidence of a dramatic invasion that toppled these great cities, no smoking gun of conquest. Instead, the decline appears to have been a slow, insidious process, a fading rather than a sudden collapse, like a river slowly changing its course, leaving behind a parched landscape. Imagine yourself now in a later period, perhaps around 1900 BCE. The bustling streets of Mohenjo-Daro still exist, but there's a subtle change in the air. The maintenance of the once pristine drainage systems has become less rigorous. Some houses are being built less carefully, sometimes encroaching on public spaces. The beautiful standardized bricks are occasionally replaced by reused inferior materials. It's not a sudden breakdown, but a creeping sense of entropy, a gradual letting go of the meticulous standards that once defined this civilization. The precise heartbeat of the city is slowing. Archaeologists have grappled with the why of this decline for decades, and several compelling theories have emerged, often intertwined. The most widely accepted revolve around environmental factors, particularly the shifting dynamics of the mighty Indus River and its tributaries. Rivers, as you know, are lifelines, but they can also be fickle friends. Changes in monsoon patterns, potentially exacerbated by climate change, could have led to prolonged droughts, or conversely, devastating floods. The Ghaggar-Hakra River system, once a major waterway sustaining many Indus settlements, gradually dried up, forcing mass migrations from those regions. What happens when your main water source decides to pack up and leave? You pack up and leave too. Another theory points to tectonic shifts, the slow grinding of the Earth's plates, which could have altered river courses, leading to the silting up of harbors and the disruption of trade routes. For a civilization so reliant on trade and agriculture, such changes would have been devastating. Imagine your entire livelihood, your access to food and markets, slowly being choked off by natural forces beyond your control. It's a terrifying prospect, a reminder of humanity's enduring vulnerability to the planet's whims. Internal factors also play a role. Perhaps the meticulously organized system of governance, whatever it was, simply lost its coherence over time. Maybe the trade networks became less efficient. The collective will to maintain the rigorous standards waned. The very lack of a strong, centralized monarchical power, which had once been their strength, might have become a weakness in the face of widespread environmental challenges. Without a king to command huge public works, to adapt to new river courses, or a priesthood to rally people with a unified divine mandate, perhaps the collective simply decentralized and drifted apart. The decline was not violent. Instead, it seems people gradually abandoned the great cities, migrating eastward towards the fertile plains of the Ganges, or simply dispersing into smaller, less complex settlements. The impressive urban centers were left to the elements, slowly reclaimed by dust and silence. Their intricate drainage systems eventually became clogged, their carefully planned streets overgrown. It's a sobering thought, a reminder that even the most advanced and peaceful societies are not immune to the inexorable forces of nature and the subtle erosion of time. And it leaves us with a lingering question: what wisdom did they carry with them as they dispersed? And what lessons does their quiet disappearance hold for us today? Chapter 6: Echoes of the Quiet Innovators. As our journey through the enigmatic world of the Indus Valley civilization concludes tonight, we're left with a profound sense of wonder, and perhaps a quiet challenge to our preconceptions. We've walked your impeccably planned streets, admired your advanced sanitation, and pondered the silent wisdom of your undeciphered script. We've seen a society that prioritized the collective over the individual, practicality over pomp, and communal harmony over conquest. These were not the bombastic empires of popular history, but rather a civilization that hung with a different kind of greatness, a greatness rooted in quiet innovation and shared prosperity. This civilization without kings or monumental temples, without grand narratives of military prowess, offers a strikingly alternative vision of human progress. It shows us that sophisticated urbanism doesn't necessarily require rigid hierarchies, and that advancement isn't solely measured by the height of a pyramid or the sharpness of a sword. Instead, the Indus Valley people left us a legacy of remarkable engineering, a profound commitment to public health, and a testament to the power of standardization and cooperation. Their greatest monuments were the comfort of their homes, the efficiency of their drains, and the widespread fairness of their economic system. Their story resonates with universal human themes: the desire for order, the need for community, the ingenuity to adapt to surroundings, and the struggle against the relentless forces of nature. They remind us that history is not a single linear narrative, but a tapestry woven with countless threads, some brilliant and boisterous, others subtle and serene, and in their quiet confidence, in their focus on the mundane necessities of life elevated to an art form, there's a dignity and a wisdom that speaks across the millennia. The Indus Valley civilization, for all its mysteries, offers a compelling counter-narrative to the traditional stories of power. It invites us to consider societies where leadership might have been less about command and more about consensus, where value is found in collective well-being rather than individual display. Perhaps in their world, the focus on practical communal achievements allowed for a broader spectrum of life and identity to flourish, free from the rigid structures that often accompany centralized monarchical rule. They were truly pioneers in a different kind of human flourishing. And to truly grasp the depth of this, we must allow ourselves to step fully into their shoes, to imagine a world where the highest aspiration wasn't to build a grand tomb for oneself, but to ensure that every household had clean water and an efficient drain. Think about it. In a society where public monuments to individual leaders are absent, where does a sense of shared identity and purpose come from? It wasn't from a collective fear of a deity, or from the unifying hand of a conquering king, but rather it seems from the meticulous crafting of a collective good. Imagine the civic pride in those perfectly straight streets, the satisfaction in a drainage system that efficiently carried away waste, the quiet comfort of knowing your neighbor lived in a home as well-built and sanitary as your own. This wasn't a civilization driven by the dramatic highs and lows of royal narratives, but by the steady, satisfying rhythm of communal well-being. It was a society that celebrated competence, order, and practicality as its highest virtues, embedding them into the very infrastructure of everyday life. So who then steered this ship of quiet innovation? The most tantalizing answer, supported by the archaeological record, points not to a single ruler, but perhaps to a form of collective governance. Envision a council of elders, perhaps drawn from various merchant guilds or skilled craftspeople, meeting not in a colossal palace, but in a functional, well-maintained public building, discussing the logistics of brick production, the maintenance of the city's vast waterworks, or the regulation of trade weights. Decisions would be made through consensus, informed by practical wisdom and a shared understanding of what it took to keep the complex urban machine running smoothly. This wasn't governance by decree, but by deliberation, a constant negotiation of the collective interest. This absence of a single all-powerful figure suggests a society where power was distributed, perhaps even diffused, relying on the cooperation of its citizens rather than the enforcement of a monarch. Such a model is almost unheard of in the ancient world, a beacon of what human societies could be when not dominated by the cult of personality. What impact would this have on the individual? Your identity in Mohenjo-Daro or Harappa would likely not be defined by your fealty to a king or your status within a rigid caste system, but by your craft, your family, and your contribution to the community. You might be a celebrated potter whose vessels were known for their elegant lines and durability, or a master beadmaker whose intricate carnelian creations were sought after in distant lands. Perhaps you were a skilled administrator, helping to oversee the distribution of grains or the maintenance of public wells. Life was not about conquering external enemies, but about perfecting internal systems. Not about accumulating personal wealth through conquest, but about ensuring a stable and prosperous life for all through skilled labor and equitable trade. Your status wasn't etched on a grand monument, but perhaps in the respect of your peers, the quality of your work, and the comfort of your home. It's a profound shift in perspective, isn't it? A civilization that measured success not by how many people you could command, but by how well you could live together. This ethos also spills into their spiritual life, or what we can infer about it. Without massive temples dedicated to state gods, and without elaborate funerary rituals for kings, what did the people of the Indus Valley believe? The evidence is subtle, scattered. Those small terracotta figurines, often robust female figures, hint at a reverence for fertility and the life-giving force. Perhaps goddess worship on a personal or household level. The priest-king figure, with his meditative gaze, might represent an ascetic or a spiritual leader. but not a divine monarch. The Great Bath, as we discussed, suggests communal purification rites, a shared spiritual experience rather than an individualistic devotion to a pantheon. It points towards a spirituality that was perhaps more intimate, more integrated into daily life and communal practices, less about grand spectacles and more about personal piety and collective well-being. Perhaps their reverence was for the river itself, the fertile land and natural cycles that sustained their ordered lives. The sacred was found not in towering idol houses, but in the life-sustaining elements and the peaceful rhythm of existence, and this quiet, pragmatic approach extended to their economic life. The standardization of weights and measures across a vast geographical area, the incredible consistency of their pottery and brick production, and the evidence of extensive trade networks reaching as far as Mesopotamia and the Persian Gulf, all speak to a highly sophisticated and interconnected economy. This wasn't an economy built on royal command, but on trust, mutual benefit, and a shared understanding of fair exchange. Imagine the bustling docks along the coast, where goods from the interior were loaded onto boats, cotton textiles, precious beads, timber, and perhaps foodstuffs destined for distant ports. And in return, luxury goods, metals, and exotic materials flowed back into the Indus cities, enriching the lives of everyone. This level of economic complexity, sustained without obvious central military power, implies robust social contracts and an innate understanding of how to foster prosperity through cooperation rather than coercion. It was an economy that seemingly served the people, rather than one where the people served a distant, extractive elite. So why did the Indus Valley civilization choose this path, so distinct from its contemporaries? Was it a conscious philosophical choice or an evolutionary adaptation to their unique environment? Perhaps it was a blend of both. The challenges of managing the powerful, unpredictable Indus River, with its seasonal floods and shifting courses, would have necessitated collective action, planning, and meticulous engineering. Individualistic, hierarchical rule might have been less effective in coordinating the vast communal labor required to build and maintain the elaborate flood defenses, granaries, and water systems. Survival itself might have fostered a culture of cooperation, where the welfare of the many directly contributed to the safety and prosperity of all. This crucible of environmental necessity could have forged a society where consensus, communal responsibility, and pragmatic solutions became the bedrock of their civilization. They weren't just building cities, they were building a different way to be human, a blueprint for collective survival and flourishing that, for a time, succeeded brilliantly. The legacy of the Indus Valley people, though silent in its script, speaks volumes through its enduring structures and its remarkable values. It is a powerful reminder that there isn't just one path to civilization, one definition of progress. They show us that order can be maintained without overt displays of force, that prosperity can be widely shared without oppressive hierarchies, and that the greatest achievements can be those that uplift the daily lives of all citizens rather than merely glorifying a select few. Their quiet innovations in urban planning, sanitation, and standardization laid foundations that would not be matched for millennia in many parts of the world. They crafted not just bricks, but a social contract that valued quiet competence, shared responsibility, and the dignified comfort of the everyday. And what can we, living in our modern, often chaotic and highly individualized world, learn from these quiet innovators? Perhaps it's a lesson in prioritizing the collective good, in the wisdom of sustainable urban design, or in the profound impact of investing in public health and infrastructure over monumental symbols of power. Their story encourages us to look beyond the flashy narratives of conquest and grandiosity, to find beauty and wisdom in the meticulous, the practical, and the communal. It challenges us to reconsider what truly constitutes a developed society, and to ask ourselves if our own metrics for progress are truly serving the well-being of all. The Indus Valley civilization serves as an enduring, albeit enigmatic, testament to the human capacity for creating remarkably harmonious and advanced societies through principles of equity, cooperation, and intelligent design. It teaches us that sometimes the loudest stories in history are not told with trumpets and war drums, but with the quiet gurgle of a well-maintained drain, or the subtle symmetry of a perfectly laid brick. Their brilliance shines not in conquering, but in connecting, not in dominating, but in dignifying the lives of ordinary people. Good night. As our journey through the enigmatic world of the Indus Valley concludes tonight, we're reminded that the past is far from dusty and dull. It's a vibrant, often surprising, and always intriguing tapestry woven with human ingenuity, resilience, and the occasional ancient mystery that still makes us wonder. Until our next archaeological adventure together, this is Stone Wrought Historian, encouraging you to remain curious about the incredible tales still waiting to be discovered beneath our feet. Sweet dreams, fellow explorers. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and may your rest be filled with wonder at the remarkable tapestry of human history.